Hi everybody, my name is Elan Barron. I'm a professor in the School of Government and International Affairs at Durham University, and I'm also the acting head of school. I'd just like to welcome you to the School of Government and International Affairs and provide a very brief introduction to some interviews that my colleagues have made where they'll talk a bit about their research and possibly some of their teaching. We are becoming one of the larger departments of politics and international relations in the country. We are nearing between upwards of almost 40 full-time members of academic staff with a huge array of expertise in the school covering political theory, comparative politics, international relations, international political economy, and also with various regional expertise scattered across the school. My own work is in international political theory and international political sociology, and I just want to say a few brief words about why I think the study of politics and international relations is really interesting and really exciting, and what brought me to the study of politics and international relations. For me, political science has always been about a few things. First of all, it's always been about the study of different power relations. The concept of power is central to politics and international relations, but what we mean by power can be really different than what we might think. Political science is also characterized, or I should say is distinguishable from the other disciplines in the social sciences by its concern with the state. The state is always very important in political science, and that's and understanding the state, understanding its function, structures, the normative features about it, theories of state, all of those are really important to political science. But I just want to mention a little bit about power here, and then I'll sign off. And to do so, I want to point to this piece of artwork just behind me and just above me. So this is a piece of artwork by Andy Everson. It's called Resilience. He's a First Nations artist from Vancouver Island in Canada. That's where I'm from, the Pacific Northwest. And this particular piece of work is called Resilience. And for those Star Wars fans, you'll recognize that the armor that this individual is wearing is that of Boba Fett. But the artwork on it is clearly not Star Wars. It's characteristic of the artwork of the First Nations peoples from the tribes from the West Coast. And it's a very interesting form of cultural appropriation, but a reverse form of cultural appropriation. I think this piece of artwork represents different forms of power relations, right? Cultural appropriation, political economy, understanding the meaning of this. What does resilience mean? What does it mean for a First Nations person, right, to use this iconography and to call it resilience? What's at stake in that? Does Disney care? They're aware of these artworks. They've actually allowed Andy to keep producing these artworks, provided he doesn't make T-shirts or baseball caps or keychains, things like that. I think the last point I want to make is why should we study? Is an answer to why should we study politics and international relations? And the reason for that is because when we study politics and international relations, it gives us the tools to help make sense out of a very complex world, so complex that it can actually be very, very difficult to find any meaning whatsoever in that world. And the study of political science helps us to identify what those meanings are and why they matter.
Hello, my name's John Williams. I'm Professor of International Relations.
Hello everyone, my name is Julia Stapleton and I am Professor of Political Thought.
Hi, my name's Christopher Finley. I'm Professor of Political Theory.
Hello, my name is Rory McCarthy. I'm an Assistant Professor of Politics and Islam here at the School of Government and International Affairs at Durham University.
Hello, my name is Goshe Akimov. I'm an Assistant Professor specializing in East Asian politics.
Hi there. My name is Dr. Patrick Kuhn and I'm an Associate Professor of Comparative Politics in the School of Government and International Affairs.
My name is Maria Dimova-Cookson. I'm an Associate Professor in Politics and I'm also the Director of the Center for Political Thought.
Hello, my name is Nick Vivian and I'm a Professor of Politics here at the School of Government and International Affairs.
Hello, my name is Clive Jones. I'm Professor of Regional Security in the School of Government and International Affairs at Durham University, and I'm also an Associate Member of the Institute for Middle East and Islamic Studies.
Hello everyone, my name is Marzieh Kouhi-Esfahani. I am a Doctor of International Relations and a Teaching Fellow in the School of Government and International Affairs, Durham University.
I want to talk to you a little bit about some of my research, and my most recent book How to Save Politics in a Post-Truth Era. And the reason I've got Mr. Q here to help me talk about this book is because a large part about the book addresses the way in which fake news and alternative facts have become an important part of contemporary politics and a feature that I would say is challenging the liberal international order. And this is interesting because unlike a horse, there is the dude, horses do not lie, but people do. Horses are very honest. They tell you what they think. They are very clear. But in an era of post-truth politics, one of the characterizations is that truth, at least in any meaningful sense, is really absent from political and public discourse. That what matters is not what is being said, but who is saying it. And people end up believing claims that adhere to their pre-existing narratives and believe people that represent in some fashion those pre-existing narratives. If anything, and this is the point I want to conclude on, because it's the same point I conclude in my book, one of the characterizations of the post-truth era is the absence of political responsibility from public life. I think the challenge all of us has is, as engaged citizens, will be to reincorporate and reintroduce and emphasize the importance of political responsibility in public life.
So the first strand of research deals with a question in military ethics. And we have a very well-established set of concepts and ideas and theories for thinking about military ethics in international politics. We usually refer to it as the just war theory or the just war tradition. The first set of questions deal with the issues of when it is morally permissible to go to war, what kinds of circumstances raise sufficiently serious questions that embarking upon the systematic and organised killing of other people is something that might be morally appropriate to do. The second set of questions that the just war tradition historically focuses upon is the idea of how you can conduct those military operations. What kinds of targets is it permissible to strike? What kinds of weapon systems is it permissible to use? What sorts of restrictions should exist in relation to the use of this systematic and organised violence in pursuit of, hopefully, morally permissible goals? There's also been a focus upon what we sometimes refer to as the justice after war. And that's the idea about what kind of peace settlements should be morally permissible. How do we go about bringing to a just end wars that have ideally been pursued for just reasons and conducted in just ways? And the area that I've been focusing upon most recently in this work has been how military technologies are bringing about significant changes. The second area is another big question in international politics and another question that has been explored and thought about for a long time. And that's how we manage an international system or an international society in which we see great ethical diversity amongst different human communities.
My research interests lie in British political thought since the middle of the 19th century, especially the intersection between liberal and conservative thought. Recently, I published a new edition of a pivotal text in this area, James Fitzjames Stephen's great work, Liberty, Equality, Fraternity. And the interesting thing about liberty, equality, fraternity is that Stephen, like Mill, was a liberal, although one who believed that liberal thought, in Mill's hands and that of a few others at this time as well, was quickly becoming corrupted by radicalism.
What I work on is political philosophy or political theory, as we sometimes call it. So I'm interested in what we call normative questions to do with politics. The particular area I'm interested in and that I specialize in is violence. Violence is, of course, ubiquitous in political history and sadly ubiquitous in contemporary politics. The questions that I look at in my research are, to a large extent, about justifications and about moral judgments of the sort that we make about violent practices. So I'm interested in things like international war. I'm interested especially in wars or armed actions as they may occur within states, things that we associate with terrorism, or things that we associate with things like revolution and rebellion, perhaps when we're describing cases that we're more sympathetic to. I'm really interested in how we make judgments and how we evaluate different cases of political violence as they occur whether they're conducted by states or against states or within states. So this has resulted in a book that I published in 2015 called Terrorism and the Right to Resist, which offers an account of what justified armed rebellion or armed resistance looks like. What sort of conditions would there need to be to justify a resort to arms, whether it's in resisting a foreign occupier or an oppressive regime or state.
Most of the research I've done in the last few years has been about Islamism. So these are political movements motivated by a religious reference. I wrote this book about Islamists in Tunisia, which is about how a movement transforms from a religious preaching group into a professional political party that sits in government. And to do the research for the book, I spent a year living in a city in Tunisia, interviewing and observing Islamists, talking to them about how they survived decades of repression under an authoritarian regime.
I research a question of labor issues and citizenship in China. I focus on civic organization and civic activism in this context. I also look at normative influence of China in the world and European influence in China, as well as Europe-China relations and the question of Belt and Road Initiative, which is the big global project of China of investments in various countries across the world, including Europe and UK.
In terms of my research, I focus on comparative political economy of development and conflict. Substantively, comparative political economy focuses on how domestic, economic, and political institutions affect politics and policy. In terms of methods, the way I use it, it uses economic models and methods to understand things that aren't markets. Things like development and conflict. My current research focuses on the causes and consequences of election violence. Election violence is violence occurring during election campaigns, on polling day, or immediately after the polls have closed. Election violence is quite frequent even today. 25% of all non-OECD countries experience election violence in some form, and it's particularly frequent in Africa and Southeast Asia. The most challenging part is that election violence is an illicit activity. That means the actors are aware that it is forbidden, and most importantly, they will engage in activities that try to hide their use of violence. That makes it hard to record data systematically and in sufficiently fine quality.
My research and my teaching are in the field of political theory. Political theory is situated in the crossover between politics and philosophy. So this overlap there could be, some would call political philosophy, some would call political thought. So this terminology, political theory, political thought, political philosophy, they're not identical, but they are very similar. So we turn to political theory when we have big questions. So when we have questions like, what is the fairest type of society? What are our duties as citizens? What is a legitimate government? What can we do about global poverty, about global inequality? We have many of these big issues today. So we are surrounded by the rise of populism. We have post-truth politics. We have climate change. And most recently, after Brexit and with COVID-19, we have the unpredictability of the future. My narrow specialism is in theories of liberty, and I run a module with that name. So why is liberty important? It is one of the biggest, the broadest, the most diverse concepts in political theory. The word liberty is used in many senses, and that has resulted in varieties of concepts.
So my research is centered around four key themes. Public opinion and electoral politics. So what do voters think and how do they gather information? And then what do they do when it comes to elections? representation and accountability. So how do voters get represented in a democracy, and how good are the accountability links between voters and those they elect? Much of my research focuses on British politics, although not exclusively so. And a lot of my research uses surveys and experimental survey methods to get at the questions that I'm interested in. Give you a few examples. One project looked at the MP constituency link in Britain and whether MPs are responsive to the policy opinions of their constituencies in the ways that they behave in Parliament. Another project I've worked on in the last few years looks at how we can measure the importance voters attach to different policy issues.
My main research focus is very much on Israeli politics and Israeli security, as well as Gulf security and insecurities, and that is widened to embrace, for example, the ongoing conflict in Yemen. And that really has been sort of the focus of my main writing and research area as well. So more recently, I published a book which examined for the first time and in great depth Israel's relationships with the Gulf monarchies, new alliances that are now reshaping much of what we thought about alliance and alliance making across much of the Middle East itself.
My area of expertise is international relations and security of the Persian Gulf and South Caucasus. My latest publication is this book, which is Iran's foreign policy in the South Caucasus. My very niche expertise is Iran's politics, especially its foreign policy and relations.
What I'm trying to do at the moment in my own teaching is to develop a new module that will hopefully be introduced the year after next. So the first part of this module wants to make an argument that we need a far more diverse, a world historical perspective, rather than one that tends to take the idea of the expansion of a European society of states, starting in the perhaps late 15th century, certainly from the 16th century onwards, and which globalizes that society primarily through forms of colonialism and imperialism to create a global international society. The second important strand there is that we need to think about regional perspectives upon world order, because some of those regional perspectives remain extremely important and in some cases are becoming more important now than perhaps they have been in a very long time. So alongside world history and regional perspectives, the third strand of the module also wants to draw upon non-Western and non-elite perspectives upon international society. And here we draw upon theorising that's often known as decolonialism. So those ideas of diversity, a diverse history, looking at regional perspectives, drawing upon the diversity of non-elite communities, play a powerful role in both the research that I've been doing and also in the teaching that I'm developing.
Currently, I teach the Level 2 module, Foundations of Western Political Thought. Here, we study the ideas and the texts of the main thinkers in the Western tradition, from Plato to the 19th century, and thinkers such as John Stuart Mill, Nietzsche, and Marx.
What I teach at Durham is primarily a specialist module available as an option for finalists, and the title of the course is The Theory and Ethics of Political Violence. So I look at some of the problems I've been telling you about, non-state violence, rebellion, resistance and revolution. Does violence have a role in these things? Should it have a role? If so, what role might it be given and in what circumstances? But I'm also interested in violence as it's associated with the state itself. Is violence essential to the state, or is it in some way alien to politics and something that the state exists in order to try and exclude from political life? I'm interested in particular practices also that raise really difficult questions like torture and the forms of interrogation that some people have tried to justify, particularly during the War on Terror. These raise difficult conceptual and moral questions that we talk about in the course.
So for second year undergraduates, I teach the module The Middle East in the International System. This is about how we apply theories of international relations to understand events in the Middle East. So we'll discuss in detail the Israel-Palestine conflict. We'll think about US involvement in the region. We'll look at counterinsurgency, at the Arab Spring. And we'll look at feminist approaches to international relations to see how they can make us think more critically about some of these problems. For third-year undergraduates, I teach the module Muslims and Politics in the Modern World. This is about how we should understand the relationship of religion and politics, which is a big issue in political science, with reference to Islam. It's partly about the history of ideas of Islamic reform, of Islamism, but it's also about taking a comparative approach to politics in Muslim-majority societies in the Middle East, but also beyond the Middle East, places like Pakistan and Indonesia. We'll discuss how Islamists try to implement their project, and we'll discuss very difficult issues of political violence, looking at groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And then for master students, I teach on the module International Politics of the Middle East, which uses theories of international relations and comparative politics to explain and analyse events in the region. So we'll have discussions about whether realist theories of power or constructivist theories of ideas and identities better explain what happens in the region. We'll discuss the politics of oil. We'll think about how alliances form. We'll think about how proxy conflicts are fought.
In Skia, I teach master degree and undergraduate modules, both related to East Asia, as well as my own module on China for level 3 students. These modules that I teach for the undergraduate level, they mainly discuss different political regimes, different economic principles guiding countries in the region of Northeast Asia, focusing on locations such as Japan, South Korea, China, Hong Kong and Taiwan. For a master degree module that I'm teaching, which is Politics of East Asia, I focus on different security challenges in East Asia, both traditional things like confrontation over the South China Sea, confrontation over Taiwan, as well as non-traditional. So things like COVID-19 would be one of those non-traditional security threats in East Asia that I would be covering in my lectures.
I teach both substantive and methods modules in the undergraduate program. My substantive teaching focuses on comparative politics, and comparative politics generally deals with 3 types of questions. How and why do political systems differ? How and why are political systems changing? And what do those differences and changes mean for political decision-making and the struggle for power? In terms of my methods teaching, I teach quantitative methods and research design. Methods are important because they are the tools required to develop a reliable and transparent answer.
In one of my modules, Contemporary Political Philosophy. So just to give you an example of the themes I'm covering on that module, they include value pluralism and truth, the moral foundations of human rights, feminist challenges to multiculturalism, race, equality and recognition, the threats of informal imperialism. In Durham, we have a very, very active center for political thought. One of the things the center runs is a seminar where we have invited speakers from all over the world. Me and my colleagues present our work there, and indeed our PhD students present their work there. We're very inclusive and encouraging for all our student cohort to take part at these seminars.
In the second year, level 2, I've taught on the research project module, and this is a really exciting module where students get to do their first pieces of independent research, sort of small research projects, almost like a mini dissertation. And I've taught groups there where we focus on understanding the 2016 EU referendum in the UK, and students have done some really exciting projects there looking at things like what determines voter behaviour in the EU referendum, what were the consequences of the EU referendum in terms of social division or social discrimination, and also the influence of the media and social media on people's attitudes towards the European Union surrounding the EU referendum and its campaign. I also teach on a module called Analytical Politics, which serves two purposes. One is to help students to begin to reason analytically about political and social processes. And the second element of the module is helping students to think about designing empirical research that will help them test theories of political processes. At level 3, I've taught modules on elections and British politics, where students get to use social survey data to test theories of the way voters behave and the way that people evaluate parties and political actors. I've also taught a module on MPs, parties and parliamentary politics in Britain, which links to the research that I do on legislative behaviour. This project covers things like how MPs are motivated, their links to constituents, and how changes to parliamentary rules impact upon the outcomes that we see from the legislative process in the UK.
I teach a module at level 3 on Israeli politics, but I also contribute to the more broader portfolio that we offer on Middle East politics at level 2 and at MA level as well, with a particular focus on things like civil-military relations across the region. I hope there's something there that may attract some of you to looking at Durham and the wider portfolio that we offer to both our undergraduate students and our postgraduate students. And I hope at some point I'll get to see many of you, if you are indeed inspired by some of the research interests of myself and my colleagues, to come to Durham University to study 4 degrees either in politics, international relations, or indeed in our master's programs. Thank you very much.
I know that the clip that you just watched was a bit on the long side, and it needed time and patience to go through it. However, our purpose was to give you an idea of the kind of academics that would be responsible to support your learning experience. We try to provide for our students a fulfilling and enjoyable learning experience. It is fulfilling in the way that it provides the knowledge and also transferable skills which would help the graduates for their next destination, whether it is going for postgraduate studies, for PhD studies, or for finding a job. We try to make it enjoyable by using various types of pedagogical approaches, by using methods and theories which helps students learn better, but also enjoy their learning. For example, in my own modules, I use debates, we do team presentations, we do counter scenario building, role plays, lots of fun activities which helps students to acquire the knowledge, but also practice their communication skills, their presentation skills, and so on. We also support our students very effectively. So you would not be alone in your learning process. You have face-to-face, or if it is still Corona is still going around, online meetings with your tutors, with your lecturers and module conveners. Hope you enjoy watching this video, and look forward to see you in Durham.
One of the things I really find that jumps out most to me at Ustinov is a sense of vibrancy. It's a postgraduate-only college, so that already attracts a certain type of person. And it's international students from all over the world.
Yeah, so it's a really nice thing to be a part of. Everyone works together and everyone knows each other quite well, and it's very friendly, very relaxed, but also we do some really good stuff.
Ustinov College offers that multicultural environment for study and for making friends. Because in my own opinion, like any leading university, which Durham is, must be able to offer that multicultural environment and produce the global citizens that we really are keen to producing. And I think UCNF College had really enhanced that.
The Global Citizenship program is organized completely by student volunteers where we would hold events on topics like science, politics, culture, or the arts. And what I find most interesting is that there really isn't any division between them. And anyone can go to any of these events and have a great conversation.
Scholars on the Global Citizenship Programme have their accommodations subsidised by the college, either partly or fully. As a self-funded student myself, this has been invaluable to me. It's not only given me the opportunity to be involved with the college project and the scholarship programme, but I've had my accommodation paid for, which has allowed me to continue living at UCNF and doing my PhD.
I'm a mature student who returned to education after a brief period of work. So UCNF has been very kind in supporting me with the Norman Richardson Award and UCNF Travel Award, which helped me present 3 papers in conferences, and that was important because it gave me a lot of confidence.
What you have here are students from all over the world coming together, they're meeting, they're discussing, they're taking up new ideas, they're meeting new people, and it creates an atmosphere that's not only incredibly welcoming, but is amazingly stimulating. And I love every second of it.
Well, I think being a UCNovian, it's not just about being part of the community, it's about contributing to it as well.
The GCR, or the Graduate Common Room, is a committee of student volunteers who work to make UCNAV a safe and a social space. They plan formal dinners, pub quizzes, movie nights, welfare events, everything you need to have a social and interactive environment.
In Fisher House, you go there when you're feeling tired or bored, or you just want to wind down from schoolwork, and you meet people that you've never met before, and you make friends with you, chill out with them, and there's a feeling of family there.
Coming back home from work, from studies, was like you meet different people who are in the same state, and my kids had their own friends, so their lives were sorted and so was mine.
Every day I feel really, really privileged being a part of UCNF College.
UCNF is family to me.
Durham University Business School is one of the leading business schools in the UK. We have an extensive portfolio of master's programs within the 5 main subject areas: accounting, finance, economics, management and marketing, with specialist routes among each.
The rankings were very strong, like one of the best schools in the UK and also in the world, so it was definitely a big factor in me deciding to come to Durham.
Our programs are all delivered by professional staff with a range of different backgrounds. Some are traditional research academics delivering knowledge that really is cutting edge. Others have had extensive successful careers in industry.
The faculty is perhaps the most valuable asset that we have here, and having access to these experts is not something to be taken for granted.
I believe we offer the richest, most up-to-date curriculum and the broadest range of module and course delivery.
The facilities of Durham University are outstanding. They have libraries 24/7.
I love that even online, because I'm a Durham University student, I have the opportunity to look at a number of journals and read newspapers that I otherwise would not have been able to.
Additionally, we have access to the Bloomberg terminal, so we can just download data anytime we want.
Why I had initially chosen the business school was because they offer students the opportunity to write their dissertation in another European university. They even have the opportunity for students to go on week-long tours to other countries where they actually get to meet with businesses. There are not many universities that give you that.
There are students from all around the world. I'm very interested in getting to know how they actually think.
I learn more about their culture. I learn more about their economic situation, much more than what I would be reading in newspapers.
Our master's programs have a number of relationships and partnerships with key professional bodies to improve employability. For example, our accounting programs, we work extensively with ACCA and CIMA to help graduates progress towards full professional qualification.
Durham Business School have also given us opportunity to explore our business idea in form of Dragon's Den, and I was really delighted to manage to be one of the winners in the competition.
The business school has its own career service team. It's where you meet potential employers face to face and make a stronger impression before you end up applying online.
The Back to China event is about to organize the student who wants to work in China, especially for teaching us how to write the CV, how to do group interview, and how to do presentation.
It's a very beautiful city. Just walking around campus is an incredible experience.
It's a unique experience in a very modern environment, but equally within the beauty of a World Heritage Site.
It's very good for students because of the cathedral, you have the castle, and I kind of enjoyed the saturated part of a student life.
It's amazing. I love it.
St. John's location on the Bailey places it right at the heart of the history of Durham, and it only takes stepping outside of the doors of St. John's to see that.
I think John's is unique because of the community we have. I've never been involved in a community that is as kind and welcoming as we have here.
There's a big cliche that everyone loves John's because of the people, but it's actually true. Everyone here is absolutely fantastic.
The whole community is just really, really amazing. It's like a family, so since the college is pretty small, it means that everyone talks to everyone and it really feels like home.
I didn't apply for John's initially, but fortunately I was reallocated here and it was one of the best things to happen to me.
I thought it was a really nice mix of sort of old and new accommodation, and it's really attractive being the only college that offers everybody guaranteed accommodation on the Bailey.
So John's is quite a small college, but we punch above our weight when it comes to the sporting arena. So there's so many sports people can get involved with, from football and rugby to ultimate frisbee and societies like the Cheese Society.
Sports at John's is massive. It's something that anyone can take part in, whatever level you are. So you can pick it up at any point throughout your time at John's, which is great.
We have the best music society of all the colleges. It's the biggest and it's the most active. Anyone can get involved, whether you're studying music at university or if you've not played the recorder since you were 6.
One thing I do at John's is community outreach, which I really enjoy. There is a great atmosphere to want to make a difference.
We have 2 community outreach projects. I think it shows a lot about the John's community that staff and students can get involved in things.
My favourite John's event was honestly Bailey Ball. It was just so magical. The whole college was transformed.
We have a social events committee who organise social events throughout the year, and we spend the whole week preparing for it and decorating college and making it look amazing.
The after exams period is probably the craziest time of the year. There's at least one event every day. Brewfest, John's Day, Summer Ball, Summer Shakespeare. There's something for everyone.
When I was making the decision to do my master's degree, I really wanted to be in an environment that valued intellectual pursuits and emphasized just curiosity, and that seemed to be very much the case in St. John's College.
The postgraduate community is very vibrant at Johns. Everybody has a different background, not only in terms of their academic discipline, but where they're from.
I think there's a lot of support in Johns through the students themselves. The fact that we have a student support team that do the drop-in sessions, I think makes it a lot easier for people to be able to go and sit down with someone that they see as a peer.
I just feel that whenever I have an issue with something, I have people to talk to, and I feel that the college will support me at any time.
Johns in one word. Amazing.
It's inspiring.
Small but mighty.
Welcoming, inclusive family.
I feel like I've got two homes.
I think I'll probably miss being able to walk into college and just sit down anywhere and talk to anyone about anything.
I think Johns is really special because everyone finds a place to belong.
Coming to Johns and coming to Durham has probably been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
When I look back at my time at Johns, I've realised that I've made so many new friends, met so many different people, gained so many different experiences, and really I found a home for life.